sir, it's live now. You can start.
Very good evening, one and all. Today, we are moving on to discuss GST related practical e-filing, registration, etc. So as first part today, we would be discussing the GST high-end web portal, GST network web portal, the website wherein you can register, pay tax, submit return, receive notices, submit replies. So all those things have been aligned to a single website, and that is termed to be GSTN. So that GSTN, the total website, web portal, we would be having a familiarization. And I have shared the GST website. Hope it is visible. If yes, tell me yes. So in this website, fundamentally, we would try to understand various facilities, various options available in the web portal. That registration part we would be discussing today. How to register in a GST web portal we would discuss today. And the related legal provisions of registration also we would be discussing. So in this context, first of all, we would be having an overview, outlook of the entire GST network, and afterwards the step-by-step procedure, how to register, what are all the legal provisions we would be discussing. So with this prelude, let me on to discuss the GST website. This is just as if income tax we had without logging in. We discussed the home page of income tax website, just as if the home page of GST and GST website would be like this. Home, if it is, then you may see GST, Goods and Services Tax, Government of India, State and Union Territories. You can, if you want to register yourself, either you can go under this service. This overview of GST website to do this registration process. At that meanwhile, I will tell you how to do this registration process and all. After having that registration, you will be having user ID and password. Then as if in income tax website, you can log in using this window, this button. Then even without doing this, you may create a challan even without having registration. How to do it, how to pay the tax. You can do in this services payment create challan. Then you can get, the goods have been assigned with the harmonized system of nomenclature, HSN code. 8-digit codes are assigned. So to get the list of those HSN code, you can click here and you can get the HSN code list of goods. And for unregistered applicant, for us, this thing, temporary user ID can be generated through this point. Likewise, miscellaneous options are there. Then e-way bill, you may be knowing, in order to move the goods from one place to another, the vehicle that carries such goods should be accompanied by electronic way bill also. So the rules and all, how to generate and all, the instructions are being given here. How to generate e-way bill and all is a different thing for that different so what do you call software you have to use in order to make it. Here it says when to generate e-way bill, how to generate e-way bill. Every instructions has been given. So you can go through this thing in order to get those knowledge. Then under service, any application given, what is the status? Registration application given, what is the status? Likewise, various status you can get within this. Over and above this GST law, if you click, you can get each and every state specific state law along with white goods law also. So GST Act, everything you can click and you can read free of cost in GST law. Under downloads, you know, as if in income tax, two types of return submissions were there. Online as well as online offline. Likewise, here also you can download some offline tool, offline utility. Therein you can give various data. And that zip file you can get and that can be uploaded for submitting the return. And second way of filing the return, that is web-based, step by step you can file the return. So both ways of return submission are available in GST site also, GST portal also. So both of those things you can do, and the offline utility here, if you download, there you can type those details and you can create that file in order to do this thing. So there in downloads offline you may see. You can see this GSTR 3B return offline tool, etc. So if you click, you can submit those returns. You may see different types of returns, all those returns and all. We would be familiarizing in the upcoming classes. So various returns, various forms that we have to file, both offline and online, you can do it. If you download this offline utility, you can create that batch file which can be uploaded in order to submit the return, or web-based form also. You can file the same. Just as if in income tax, both way of filing is available. That is how what in download this thing. Then in search taxpayer, in your various bills and all, you may see invoices and all received from various suppliers. The GST number of them would be mentioned. So here you can search the GST number of them by clicking this search, and you can verify whether they are genuine supplier or not. So if you give the GST number here, then automatically the details of that person would appear, so that you can check whether they are regular taxable person, casual taxable person, composite taxable person. You can very well check and you can verify the particulars of that supplier using this window. Apart from which, if you have PAN of a person, then using that PAN you can check whether that person has been registered or not, and the registration number also you can get by PAN. You can search whether they have registered under GST or not. Likewise, some temporary ID would be generated by the department. Voluntary registration, if they do, then temporary ID would be done. That temporary way of registration also you can check by using this temporary ID verification. Then in case of a composition person, you know, two types of registrations are there, regular registration as well as composition registration. For composition registration, the same way you can search with. Then under tax help facilities, various softwares are there, billing softwares, accounting software, GST Suvidha providers, every other sort of help persons are there that you can do with. Then you know, if your total turnover during the previous year is more than 5 crore, during B2B transaction, business to business transaction, the invoice has to be issued as an e-invoice, electronic invoice. the physical bill that we are giving or printed bill that we are giving would not suffice. In IRN, invoice registration number, a reference number you have to create by using this e-invoice web portal. And that e-invoice particulars, everything that you have to give, and that QR code along with or that what you call MICR code along with this IRN number. Only if that invoice would be a valid one, and that would be turned to be as e-invoice. And by clicking this window, you can generate a e-invoice. Going that site, you can generate this e-invoice. So that is also there. Apart from which, any other news and updates in GST website also, you can search here. Various news, various updates, etc. So there, credit notes, declaration of IMS, invoice management system has been recently done. So all those updates are there in the website. Yes, so this is the basic site. Then how to register, I will tell you. For registration, there are two parts. First part, if you see, if you go to this register option, you can see who I am. You have to select who you are. If you are a normal taxable person, taxpayer, you have to select. If you are a government agency, if you are going to deduct the TDS, then tax deductor you have to deduct. And if you are an person who is selling scrap, then purchasing scrap, then also TDS applicability is there. So TDS you would be required to, tax deductor status you would be required to register. Likewise, if you are an e-commerce operator, then you are required to collect the TCS and that has to be remitted. Then TCS where you have to select. And if you are a GST practitioner, various authorizations, various assignments you can undertake on behalf of the assessee taxpayer. For that sake, you have to get registration as GST practitioner. If you are coming from abroad and if you are going to have some business for a specified period, then you have to get registered not as normal taxpayer, rather as non-resident taxable person. If you are an United Nations organization, UNICEF, UNESCO, IMF, etc., then if you want to do some services, sell some products here, they also would be required to register under this GST, and that is being collected, that has been done here at a United Nations body. Then consulate or embassy of a foreign country, if you are an embassy, if you are a consulate, then you would be required to select this option. Any other person other than this also you can click on this other notified person this thing. Non-resident online service provider and non-resident online money gaming supplier, if you are doing, then you can select this option. Likewise, on the basis of your status, you can select I am who. Then afterwards, the place where you are going to have registration, you have to select. Suppose you are in Assam, you select Assam. And most futuristic aspect of this GST is every state where you are having your registered place of business. For every state, you should have a separate registration. Suppose I am having a unit in Assam, I would be required to have registration in Assam. And another registration, if I am having another place in Tamil Nadu, I would be required to have another registration. Likewise, every state wherein I am having place of business operation, every state I would be required to have separate registrations. But if I am having different units within a state, suppose for example in Karnataka, if I am having a registration in Bangalore and another registration, another place in Mangalore, suppose I am having, then for both units, they did not have two registrations. Within a single registration, you can add on the business. You can add on the branch within a state. That's an option. Within state also, if you want, in particular, you can have two basic registrations. But rather, if you want to have only a single registration, you can add on the other places to be additional place of business. But if you want, you can have two registrations within state also. But in case wherein if you are having branches other than within a state, for every branch in any state, you would be required to have different registration. Suppose if you are having your place of business in all those 28 states, 27 states, whatever it is, or in all union territories, all specific union territories as well as this states, you would be required to have specific separate registrations. So in that way, the state of business you have to select with. In order to add on a place within a state, there is no requirement to come here. Amendment of registration would do the purpose. So state wherein you are going to carry on, you would be required to select. Then obviously, yes, what district you are going to have, you have to select. Then you would be required to enter the name as per PAN. You would be required to enter. PAN also you would be required to enter with. Then quite important this thing, one email ID as well as mobile number you would be required to give. So an email ID and mobile number, if you give, and if you click on to, and if you give this CAPTCHA, and if you click to this proceed option, OTP would be generated to both email ID as well as mobile number you mentioned here. To that mobile number as well as email ID, two OTPs would come. After giving that OTP and email ID, one TRN, temporary registration number would be generated. Temporary registration number would be generated along with the password. So this is first part. Up to generation of this temporary registration number and password is the first part. So now, my dear friends, you listen and give me the answer in question and answer box. What I have mentioned till now is with regarding to registration. All this registration perspective in PPT, I would be giving you the details again, back what are all the things to be done. Now it is part 1. So totally for registration, kindly do type. There are two parts, part 1 and part 2. Kindly do type. For registration, you type, two parts are there, part 1, part 2. Please do type, everyone. For registration, two parts, part 1, part 2.
Basement hearing നേരത്തെ പേജിട്ട് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത് അത് നിങ്ങൾ ചുമ്മാ വാങ്ങിച്ചാൽ മാത്രം മതി. ഇന്നലെ നിങ്ങൾ വന്ന് എനിക്കിത് കൊണ്ട് തന്നല്ലോ. 28/10/2025 വരണമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാണ് ഞാൻ അതിനകത്ത് കാണിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. 30/10/2025 ഞാൻ ഇഷ്യൂ ചെയ്തതായിട്ട് വാങ്ങിച്ചാൽ മതി. വാട്സപ്പാണോ? ഹലോ, കേൾക്കാമോ? കേൾക്കാം. അതെ, ഫൈനയുടെ ഷോപ്പ് നോട്ടിന് ഞാൻ അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിന് 17/11/2025 EMIയുടെ ഇതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഉള്ള ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് എല്ലാം കൊണ്ടുവരണം. 17/11 ഞാൻ അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. മെയിലല്ല തന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്, ഞാൻ അല്ലാതെ അയച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. നോബിൾ ഇത് വിശ്വാസ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് എങ്ങനെയാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു ഇതിനകത്തുള്ള അഡ്രസ്. അത് തന്നെ വാങ്ങിക്കണം അവിടെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ. വേണ്ട വന്ന് വാങ്ങിച്ചില്ലേ വന്ന് വാങ്ങിക്കുമോ? അല്ല ചോദിച്ചേ എങ്ങനെ മാം എനിക്ക് അത് തരുമോ? ഞാൻ അങ്ങോട്ട് അയക്കാമെന്നും പറഞ്ഞത്. അങ്ങനെ മതി മതി. ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
So there are two parts of registration. Part 1 I have already mentioned. Part 1 regarding this giving basic details. All those details you have seen. Kindly you type the details that you require. This is those details. Who are you? You have to type state, district, legal name as per PAN, email ID, mobile number, CAPTCHA. You would be required to give. So in this way, part 1, if you give, one OTP would be generated both to your email ID as well as your mobile number. Afterwards, after typing the same, you would be getting TRN, temporary registration number. Temporary registration number, reference number along with this password. So that thing you have to use. And this is how part 1 is over. So part 1, TRN would be generated. Kindly do type TRN. Sir, in case residential address Tamil Nadu, business address Andhra. Business address you have to type, not residential address. TRN you would get generated. Using that TRN, the second part you have to do. So how to do the second part, I would tell you. After getting the TRN, you have to click this temporary reference number. You have to type this temporary reference number and you would be required to type all these CAPTCHA. After typing this temporary reference number along with and you click proceed window, you would be led to a password column. After typing the password, various documents that you have to upload along with various address, principal person PAN, principal person name, their details, along with various uploading document. Say for example, if you are residing in an or if you are having business in an rented premises, then rent agreement along with NOC, or if you are in a own building tax receipt plus possession certificate, plus if you are having municipality license, that copy. If you are a private limited company, MOU, AOA, etc. If you are a partnership firm, copy of deed. In that way, electricity bill or address proofing copy, electricity bill or water bill, etc. you would be required to upload. After uploading all those things, Aadhaar authentication is also there. If you are Aadhaar is linked to a registered mobile number, then OTP would be generated. In that case, there would not be any physical verification. Otherwise, physical verification of premises also would be there. In case of Aadhaar linked mobile verification, 7 days they would be required to give you registration. Otherwise, 30 days it would take to get the registration. Physical verification by the officers may also be there in order to get that authentication. So in this way, under part 2, lot of documents has to be submitted. Afterwards, this registration application would be submitted. Then it would be given to authorized officer, and on the basis of whether it has been verified under Aadhaar or not, within 7 days or 30 days, they would be either giving you some notices in order to get some more details or to give the registration. If some more details are seeked by the department, then you are bound to give those details. If you supply all those things, again your registration would be, proceedings would be done. And if okay, they would be issuing the registration certificate. Otherwise, they would be rejecting the registration certificate. So these are the procedure, online procedure, how to do this registration procedure. All the things that you have to upload, what are all the steps, all those things we would be rediscussing back again when we come back to this registration sort of a thing. So what I want to make you know is this is the space, this is the web portal wherein you can generate or you can go for this registration application. Yes. So in this way, this registration process, how to do a what do you call a speedy process. In a speedy way, I was mentioning you the entire process. I would come back to this registration procedure to and all the persons who are required to register and all later. For the time being, I would make you, after getting the registration, you would be getting user ID password. In PAN, every time this PAN would be your user ID. Here, not the so case. Here, user ID and password would be different. I'm trying to log in to my user ID and password. After clicking this, after getting the CAPTCHA, if you log in, then now you would be onto this logged in user ID and password. There you can see your GST number. You can see your profile. You would be seeing various quick links also. So this is the dashboard. So whether you have filed all the back month returns, everything would be appearing here. So every return has been submitted. If not, green would not appear. So when all these things has been submitted, everything are being mentioned here. So this is how this dashboard window would appear. There would be quick window for return dashboard. If you are submitting the returns, GSTR1, GSTR3B, etc. If you want to submit, you have to go through this return dashboard. If you want to make the challan payment to cash ledger, to get the amount from electronic ledger to actual payment, create challan, you would be required to get. If any notices issued by the department to you, if you want to see those things, you would be required to click this view notices and orders. An annual return also you would be required to click. So this is the way that you would be required to get those informations. So in this way, this return window is been or this dashboard is being shown in this way. Then apart from this, various options to get new registration. Suppose you already have a registration. If you want to get a registration in another state, then again I was mentioning you would be required to get this thing I was mentioning. Then nowadays your business address has to be geocoded. Geocoded meaning within the map that you have to select the place of actual business. Here, if you have already registered, if you want to change any particulars that has been given at the time of registration, change in mobile number, email ID, change in address, all those things you would be required to go for this amendment of registration. Two fields are there, non-core field as well as core field. Two fields are there. You can select all those core field as well as non-core field. If you want to apply for composition levy and if you want to withdraw from composition levy, all those things you can click it here. And after registration, if you want to cancel yourself, you can click here for application for cancellation of registration. Then composition levy, if you want to opt in, you have to click here. And if you haven't done any of those applications and you want to know the status, you have to click his track application status here. Likewise, this registration window is Then various types of ledgers you can see. All those things we would be discussing later. There is electronic cash ledger, electronic liability register, negative liability statement, reversal statement, reclaimed statement, electronic credit ledger, payment towards demand. All those things is there. We would be familiarizing those things later, and we would be coming back to this slide again. Then in this returns, already I have mentioned you in returns. You can submit it offline as well as online. So this return dashboard window was there in dashboard also. So this return, if you submit, you can it would lead to various types of returns that you can submit. GSTR1, GSTR3B, GSTR7, various types of returns you can select and you can file. And already submitted returns also you can get from this track return status. Various input tax credit forms, every other things, IMS, every other forms, annual return, everything you can select from this return column. Then if you want to make a payment, pay GST, just as if in income tax, here you can click for this create challan. Using this amount, after creating the challan, you can pay you from your bank account. It would be getting credited to your electronic cash ledger. And how many challans you have created, everything challan history it would give you. Plus any challan created but not paid, that would be there in your saved challan list. Then various applications you can give. All those applications I am not going in deep. All those things you can create from this user services. And if any excess tax paid in case of export, etc., you can claim for a refund. Those refund application you would be getting from your application RFT01. All those things you would be getting from here. You can give an application and all from this point. Apart from this, I was already mentioning you e-way bill, how to generate and all. You can generate it from this thing. E-way bill is nothing but electronic way bill. Along with invoice and other particulars, you should have this e-way bill also. If the total amount of goods that you are transporting is more than 50,000. E-way bill in part A along with part B is mandatory, other than for exempted goods. All these things you can give it here. And track application status, if you click, all those applications you had done, refund registration, etc. What is the status? You can serve from here. So this is various option under this services option. GST law, already we have mentioned various act you can download. Apart from online listing, offline tools already I have mentioned. Accounting and billing software also I have mentioned. Search a taxpayer, this thing, it was also available without logging in the home page itself. You can search the GST number of various persons, whether to check whether they are genuine or not, their particulars, etc. By using PAN, you can search whether they have registered under GST or not. Temporary ID already generated by the department, you can search from here as well as composition person. Then help and taxpayers facility, e-invoice, news and updates, everything I have discussed. So this is bare idea about various options available in the GST web portal. Till now, anything that you want to discuss specific, you may feel free to ask. Otherwise, after getting a bare idea about this GST portal, we are trying to have a discussion on registration procedure, registration who are all the persons who are required to get registered and all. We are going to discuss. Till now, any doubt in this GST portal or any option that you want to see, you tell me. I would discuss. Otherwise, we would be moving on to those registration requirement as well as registration procedure using my PowerPoint presentation. of the things that I am trying to discuss, you know, you go through that GST website. The website is gst.gov.in. gst.gov.in is the website. You can go through and you can verify whether all these things are there in that website. So everybody do type the website gst.gov, government, gov.in, gst.gov.in. Everybody can you type? Everybody to type gst.gov.in, the web portal. Everybody, please. Okay, good. gst.gov.in. Thank you. Is the website that you have to go in order to do all these things. So basic things, you try to click on those registration. You try to go for the GST law downloads. You have various tutorial videos in order to study all these things in YouTube and all. Kindly do try to figure out all those things. So in this way, sir, who are all required to file GST returns, all those registered persons are mandatorily required to file GST returns, not in case of income tax. Income tax we were mentioning only if you are having income or company, firm, or those persons who were having that 7th proviso to 139 are required mandatorily to file the return. So no, the case in GST, under GST, every registered person are mandatorily required to file the GST returns. So those how to file, who and all the persons who are required to file everything in upcoming classes, we would be discussing. Don't worry. Can TDS payment possible in GST portal? This is GST TDS. This is not income tax TDS. Income tax TDS is different perspective. Under GST, GG Simon, under GST, government, if pays any amount for purchase of goods or services 2.5 lakh or more from a single supplier during the year, then the government is required to deduct TDS at 12.2%. That TDS, as well as certain persons who are purchasing scrap, certain minerals are required to deduct TDS. So all those cases, that TDS is being mentioned. This is GST TDS, not income tax TDS. Both are different. Hope you got the point. Yes, any doubt still now you can ask, otherwise we would be moving on to discuss registration perspectives. For that purpose, hope a PowerPoint presentation shared is visible. Is the PPT visible? Is the PPT visible? Tell me yes, and only I can continue, please. Hope it is visible. So let me continue. Yes. So in that way, registration, if you see, I was mentioning the registration is GST is PAN based and state specific. PAN based means for PAN, you would be required to get registration. Within a state, separate registrations are not required if you are adding on the branches. Rather, if you want to add branches, places of business in any other states, for every state, you would be required to have various separate registration. So that's the point. But for those things, everything should have under a same pattern. If you are registering as regular, every branch should be regular registration. If it's composition, every branch should have a composite registration. So it's a PAN state-based registration. One registration per state or union territory that I have already mentioned. Minimum one registration is required. More than a branch, either you can add on GST registrations or you can add on business place by amending that existing registration, non-conflict amendment it is. However, a business entity has separate place of business in the state may obtain separate registration for each place of business already mentioned. GSTIN, GST identification number, just as if PAN, permanent account number for income tax. For GST, GSTIN, GST identification number is there. So PAN, permanent account number is the identification number. Here GSTIN. Everybody to type the full form of GSTIN, goods and service tax identification number. So everybody to type GSTIN, goods and services tax identification number. Everybody please, GSTIN. GST again, GST identification. Yes, it is 15-digit number. 15 number. First two digit would be state code. First two digit would be state code. For Kerala, it is 32. For Tamil Nadu, it is 33. First two digit would be state code. State code. First two digit state code. Next 10 digit, it would be PAN. PAN. If it is a partnership firm who is registering, PAN of partnership firm. If it is individual, so next 10 digit, it would be PAN. So 10 plus 2, 12 over. Next 3, it would be various permutations and combinations of numbers, digits, numerics as well as alphabets. One said A, one said 1, one said 2. Likewise, if you keep on adding branch location in an state, that way that numbers would vary. That is with the department how they are going to allot for various registration IDs. So in this way, last 3 mixture of alphabets as well as numeric, alphanumeric number, it would be the last 3 digits. So in total, first 2 state code, 10 PAN numbers as well as 3 alphanumeric numbers, in total 15 digit GST INs. So can you numbers of GST IN? Everybody, 15 digit GST IN. What are all the particulars within which? Can you do that? So everybody do type. First 2 digits would be state code. Second 10 digit would be your PAN. Next 3 digit would be combination of alphanumerics. Wonderful. Sushmita Ghosh. Good work. Everybody do type. How this GSTIN would be. GST identification number. Sanjay, good job. So that is what GSTIN is. Then registration is not as specific. You know there are CGST, SGST for intrastate supply, IGST for intrastate supply. In case if you are in Union Territory, then instead of CGST, SGST would be CGST and UTGST. So there for specific UTGST, SGST, CGST, IGST, various separate registrations are not required. Within a single registration, you can remit, you can collect, you can avail input on all these taxes. So it is not tax specific, it is PAN specific and state specific. Hope all these points which I have mentioned is clear to you. In this web portal, in this PowerPoint slide, all the points that I have mentioned now is clear. Can I do so? Can I consider so? Can I hope so? Is it clear? Tell me yes. Please do have a continuous feedback so then I can feel that you are all listening to me, you would understand it better. Kindly do cooperate, kindly do contribute. Any doubts in this slide? Tell me yes or no. Any doubts, you may feel free to ask also. Quite important slide that I am discussing. After which, who are all the persons who are required to register? First of all, the normal cases, if your turnover is more than basic threshold limit, if your turnover is more than basic threshold limit, you would be required to get a mandatory registration. Then if you are transferring business, GST registration number cannot be transferred. If you are a proprietor, you are transferring your business to, say, Mr. X. Mr. X have to get another registration. Just as if you are converting it into a partnership, converting it into a private limited company, in all these cases, you would be required to get these separate registrations. Then in case of amalgamation, demerger by an order of High Court, then you would be required to get registration. So how to compute aggregate turnover and all I am not dealing with. Your taxable supply, exempt supply, exports, interstate supply, everything is aggregate turnover. So that aggregate turnover, if it is more than a basic exemption limit, basic taxable limit, then you would be required to get registration. So these are the persons who would be required to get registration. Yes. Now, what is the threshold limit? State-wise, it would change. State-wise, it would change. You know, in states of Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura, if your total turnover is more than 10 lakhs, if the total turnover is more than 10 lakhs, you would be required to get registration, both in case of goods as well as service. Goods turnover, service turnover, or both goods along with service. If it is more than 10 lakhs rupees, then automatically they would be required to get registered. Then, in case of states of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Telangana, if your threshold limit is more than 20 lakhs, indifferent whether it is goods supplier, service supplier, or goods as well as service supplier, if your total turnover is more than 20 lakhs, then also you would be required to apply for registration, compulsory registration. States Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, and Telangana. And third category of states, you know, third category of states wherein all other states in Kashmir, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, any other states only carrying on goods business, 40 lakh would be the threshold limit. Services or service along with goods, 20 lakh would be the limits. So in this way, three types of threshold limits are there. You all know in your intermediate book, it may be there. So kindly type your state along with the threshold limit as per this chart. Everybody. If you are in Assam, you do this first column. If you are in third column, if you are in Telangana, second it would be. If you are in Manipur, first would be. Likewise, type your state and type the threshold limit. Third category only 40 lakhs in case of goods alone, 20 lakhs in case of service or service along with goods. Kindly to type your state along with threshold limits. You are only. Please. Your state along with on the basis of this chart, how much is your threshold limit? Kindly rotate. Okay, likewise, per state, different types of registration limits are there. Thank you for your replies. Now you may see who are all the persons other than this normal registration, that is threshold is different. If you are having those transactions which has been mentioned in this PowerPoint slide, then also you would be required to have compulsory registration. So even though your turnover limits are less than 20 lakh, 40 lakh, 10 lakh, or whatever the limits were, compulsory registration under 24. I'm not going in depth into those things, but anyhow, registration limit, if it is less than these limits, but again, you would be mandatorily required to get registered. If you are doing the transactions as listed here, if you are making an interstate taxable supply of goods, not services, if you are a casual taxable person, if you are paying tax on reverse charge mechanism basis, if you are a e-commerce operator and you have to pay tax under 9(5), if you are a restaurant, if you are an e-commerce operator of various hotel bookings, rooms renting, etc., then even though your turnover is lower than the limit, you would be required to get registered. And if you are non-resident taxable person in RTP, you have to get registered. And I was mentioning government persons, various mineral purchases have to deduct TDS. So if your threshold limit turnover is not there or not at all in the supply is there, but by which you that you have to deduct TDS, you would be required to get GST registration. Then if you are acting on behalf of some other person, agent, principal relationship, then also you would be required to get registration. Then if you are supplying through an electronic commerce operator, if you are supplying through Flipkart, if you are supplying through Amazon, then even though your registration threshold limit is less than, or the turnover is less than threshold limit, then again you would be required to get registered. Then if you are a electronic commerce operator, you want to collect TCS. Other than that 9(5) mechanism, then you would be required to collect TCS. So those persons also would be required to get registration. So in short, every electronic commerce operator would be required to get registered. Then if your online information data access and retrieval services, various Google Drive sort of online storage mechanisms are there, then in those persons also, you would be required to get those registration. Input service distributor, if you are giving the online money gaming, and any other persons would be required to get registration, even though your turnover is less than the limit. So somebody says my voice cracks, maybe due to some network issues. Kindly to intimate to me that I would be repeating anything that you missed. That till now is with regarding to that persons who are required to get registered. Any doubt till now, you can feel free to ask. Any doubt? No, I think. So in this way, the persons who are required to get registration already mentioned. Persons who are not required to get registration, if you are exclusively going to supply exempted turnover only, it is not taxable turnover, you need not do get registration. If you are an agriculturist and if you are selling that products alone, you need not. If you are giving any services and it is the duty of recipient to pay the tax under RCM, no other turnover, you need not get registered. Then interstate supply services, then also you need not get the registration. Only case if it is interstate supply of goods, irrespective of 20 lakh, you would be required to get registration. Even though you are selling the goods, if it is handmade goods, handicraft goods notified, as well as casual taxable person, if they are you need not place through electronic commerce operator. If you are selling it through interstate, then only you would be getting permanent registration, mandatory registration. If you are selling through electronic commerce operator within the state, then separate registration is not required. As if you are doing it under a 9(5) and aggregate turnover up to 20 lakh, then also you would not be required to get the registration. So this is the various ways wherein you are not required to get the registration. So permanent required to get registration, not required to get registration, already mentioned. Then when how you have to go for that registration. If you want to get registration under 22 and 24 normal, other than casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person, I would be telling you who is a casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. Casual taxable person means they are having a permanent place of business, say in state of Bihar, but they comes to Punjab for sales for say 1 week, 10 days, 15 days. They want to have sales here. Due to some festive seasons, they have came to Punjab to sold their goods. So in that case, in Punjab, they need not have a normal registration. They can have casual taxable person registration. So they are having permanent place of business in some other parts of India. They come here and they sell and they go. In that situation, there is no requirement to get permanent registration. Rather, they can have a casual taxable person registration. First point. Second thing, likewise, if you are residing abroad, if you are a non-resident, you're coming to India in a place and have to have sales not on a permanent basis, but for a shorter period of time, then you would be called to be as non-resident taxable person. So registration requirement of NRTP and CTP would differ. Registration requirement of NRTP and CTP is before coming into business 5 days before at least you would be required to register. So before commencement of business, you would be required to register 5 days before the registration. Then how much amount for this shorter period if you want to sell the entire amount of tax, you would be required to pre-deposit. You required to pre-deposit the amount, and maximum days of registration would be limited to 90. Another 90 days is extended if that 90 days was not enough in order to sell off your goods within that time, and if you want to extend the business also, this thing, then no ITC would be applicable for NRTP only. This import of goods ITC only it is eligible. So likewise CTP and NRTP, the entire proceedings are different. So you try to go through your intermediate book and you try to understand all these provisions that I was mentioning. That for all other cases after commencing business within 30 days when you are required to get registered, then only you have to apply in that RAG01 form. How to registration, how to do online. I had shown it in your portal as part 1 and part 2. Hope you remember. So in that way of registration, after 30 days from the date from where it is required to get mandatorily registered, you have to warrant. In case of CTP, you would be required to get 5 days before you would be required to get registration. So that is the fundamental difference between this CTP and RTP with the normal persons. So normal persons, when you are required to get registration, once your turnover is more than 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 40 lakhs, or if you indulge with 24 transaction, mandatory registration transaction, then after that date, within 30 days, you would be required to go for registration application. So that thing you have to remember. Then this registration, then voluntary registration point is there. Even though you are not required to get registered under 22 or 24, then again you can voluntarily get registered. But once you register, all transaction afterwards would be a taxable one. Suppose you have registered when your turnover was 10 lakh rupees. So whether you can wait up to 20 lakh to collect and pay the tax? No. Even though you was not required to get registered, but you registered voluntarily, from that day you would be required to collect and pay the taxes. In case of mandatory registration, if you have applied within 30 days from the date of application, then the date on which you was required to apply, required to get registered would be treated to be as date of effective registration. And if you have not applied within 30 days, then the date of getting the registration would be deemed to be the effective date of registration. Example, I would tell you on 1/10/2025, your threshold limit went beyond the threshold limit. So 1/10 within 30 days, meaning 31/10, you would be required to go for application. Suppose you went for application on 25/10 and you got registration on 29/10. So what would be the effective date of registration? 1/10/2025 would be the date of registration, effective date of registration. But scenario number 2, 1/10/2025, the threshold limit got over. You are applying only on 2/11 after 30 days. 2/11/2025 you applied. 8/11/2025 you got. Then the effective date of registration would be 8/11 only, not from the date on which you had 0, 1, 10. It is not. So that way, 2 scenarios are there. So if you apply within 30 days, automatically from the date on which you was required to get registration, that threshold limit breaking, that day you would be assigned to have effective date of registration. Otherwise, as I mentioned, from the date of registration given by the department, that would be your effective date of registration. This is with regarding to effective date of registration. Yes. When already I mentioned, if you are getting SGST registration, automatically CGST, IGST registration is deemed to have been given. No separate registrations required. For CGST, SGST, IGST, separate no registrations required. Once one registration is there, it is applicable to all the types of taxes. It is not tax specific, it is assessing, PAN and state specific registration. Effective date of registration. Any doubt, you may feel free to ask. Everybody kindly do type effective date of registration. This column. Very important. Effective date of registration. Everybody do type. 2 situations. If you are applying within 30 days, then the date on which you was mandatorily required to get registered would be the effective date of registration, but not after 30 days. If you have applied, then it would be the date on which the department gave you the registration. Kindly do type, quite important. quite important. A person who is earning from YouTube, yes, definitely yes. If it is more than 20 lakh, they would be required to do it. Everybody would type effective date of registration within 30 days, after 30 days. So this is what about effective date of registration, voluntary registration. And for United Nations organization, I was mentioning UN agencies, they should have a specific number, UIN, unique identification number they should have. Demonetization also I had mentioned. Now kindly to try to type these things, understand these things with regarding to this registration procedure. Already I have mentioned there are two parts. There are two parts for registration. Already I have mentioned. Part one, you would be required to give those basic particulars with regarding to that who you are, taxpayer, tax deductor, tax collector, everything. Who you are, you have to give. Then your state along with district along with this email ID and mobile number you would be required to give. Then I was mentioning OTP would be there. After giving OTP, TRN along with password would be generated. So this is first part. So the registration requirement form part A is termed to be as a REG01. REG01. So PAN you would be required to give. PAN is validated online and verified through OTPs, mobile linked email address. So this is how your part A is over. Then afterwards, a temporary reference number TRN would be generated. That TRN you would be required to type in order to get this password, and you would be required to give informations in part B. So what are all the requirements that you want to give in part B? If you see details such as constitution of business, whether it is proprietorship, partnership, company, it's an AOP, BOI, all these constitution details you would be required to give, as well as jurisdiction, as well as option for whether you are opting for composition or not, you can give. Then date of commencement of business. when you started your business, then now why you are going for registration, whether it is a voluntary registration, whether it is mandatory registration, due to threshold limit or 24 transactions which came in order to make you registration, those things would be mentioned here. Then address, place of business, principal place of business, as well as what type of activity you are doing, whether you are a service provider, goods meaning what type of goods you are doing. Details of any additional place of business apart from this business within state, if you are having any other godowns, any other offices, any other outlets, all those things you would be required to add in additional place of business column. Apart from which, details of bank accounts you have to give, and who is going to sign, whether it is managing director, whether it is managing partner, or the proprietor himself. So who is that authorized signatory? You have to give. Apart from which, I was mentioning, you should give this Aadhaar authentication also. Aadhaar OTP it would be given. If it is authenticated, you would be getting registration within 7 days. So in this way, these are all the things that you have to upload in part B. So everybody kindly to type those things. What are all those things to be typed? Quite important. That's why I was asking you to type. Kindly to coordinate, kindly to cooperate. Type part A over TRN you got password. Now part B, you are trying to do it. Kindly to type part B requirement. So the details to be uploaded. Yes, if you are having, Sanjay asked a brilliant question. Suppose you are here in Tamil Nadu, you are having office there in Mizoram, both turnover is less than 20 lakhs. In Tamil Nadu, you are required to get registration only if it is more than 20 lakh in case of service, 40 lakh in case of goods. But you are having, by virtue that you are having registration in Mizoram also, in Tamil Nadu along with Mizoram, total turnover should be less than 10 lakhs. If it is more than 10 lakh, then you would be required to get registration. Sanjay, hope you are clear. So all these things you would be required to upload while submitting the returns, or what do you call, submitting that registration form. Hope you all know this part B, all these things. Kindly to take a screenshot, or else you can type that you can remember. Hope you are all there. Sanjay, again I do repeat. Tamil Nadu you are having. Am I audible now? I would tell you, if you are having registration in Tamil Nadu and Mizoram, both turnover totaling to more than 10 lakh, you would be required to get registered. By 40 lakh extra for Tamil Nadu, you cannot claim for the reason. But if you are making interstate supply to Mizoram, 40 lakh itself is the limit. If you are having branch in Mizoram, then you have to take registration. But if selling to Mizoram, no requirement. You can sell it to Mizoram, but if you are having branch at Mizoram, then you have to get registration, which is more than 10 lakh. I thought you are having branch in Mizoram, so now the case. If you are selling to Mizoram, 40 lakh itself is the limit. Is it clear, Sanjay? Yes. Now, for a casual taxable person, on that receipt of application 5 days before they are required to do it, an acknowledgement in prescribed form shall be issued to applicant electronically. Casual taxable person applying for registration gets a temporary reference number for an advance deposit. I was mentioning they have to deposit the entire amount, then only they would get registration. Application shall be forwarded to the proper officer. The procedure after receipt of application by proper officer would be depicted in part 2. Would be required to upload all those things as you all have typed. Yes. So in this way, if you have given all these details, all those constitution details, those MOU, AOA, those partnership deed, those rental agreements, everything, the department officer would verify. They would verify. So this is part 2, what they would do. So I was mentioning 7 working days. If Aadhaar has been done with, if you have done with the Aadhaar mobile number, if you are getting, then within 7 days, it would be processed. Otherwise, within 30 days, it would be processed. So with the Aadhaar user ID, what do you call Aadhaar generated mobile number to your mobile within 7 days, or if it is not within Aadhaar, you haven't got the Aadhaar OTP, then 30 days it would take. So 7 days, 30 days. Do these things. Afterwards, if you are okay, then the department would issue the certificate within 7 days or 30 days. But if some issues are there, then they would be issuing clarification, this thing, rent agreement. The clause are not clear. Proper stamping is not there. Likewise, any sort of clarifications required, then they would be sending you clarification notice. On that basis, you would be required to give the reply within 7 working days. After going through this thing, another within 7 days, proper officer have to verify. And if they feel happy, everything is okay, then they would be granting you with registration. And still, if they are not satisfied, then they would be rejecting the application for the reason mentioning. So this is the procedure what the departmental officer would do. Kindly do go through that chart and tell me any doubt within that chart. Go through the chart, please. Tell me any issues if you are facing. കുഴപ്പമില്ലല്ലോ. എങ്ങനെയുണ്ട് അവിടെ? So you go through those 7 days, 30 days. So here in this chat is proper officer who verifies, examines all this stuff. Yes, all the things that you have uploaded in that RTB column, they would be verifying. After verifying the same only, they would be issuing you the registration certificate, not to give you for clarification. Clarification again, you have to upload those things. If satisfied, they would be giving you certificate, otherwise they would be rejecting your application. So this is the steps that you have to follow. So go through the same and no issues, I can move forward. Any clarifications required, you tell me. Part 1 and part 2, I had mentioned. Part 1, assessee part, part 2, department part, part 1 also. Part A, part B was there. A up to TRN, after TRN to upload. This is part 2 wherein department have to react. Any doubt in part 1A, part 1B as well as part 2, you may feel free to ask. No doubts also, you tell me that I can continue. Shall I continue? Anuj Naru. TDS, okay, sir, here is starting proper officer is verify exams, all this stuff, yes. This GST TDS is not equivalent to income tax TDS, Sanjay, already I have mentioned. Income tax TDS is different. GST TDS, already I have mentioned some government purchases, government service receipt, if it is more than 2.5 lakh or if you are purchasing some mineral specified. This is GST TDS. It has nothing to do with income tax TDS 26 and all. It is quite a different topic. This TDS is GST TDS. So under GST also separate TDS and TCS is there, which is different from income tax. Kindly don't get confused. Separate TDS, separate TCS. Here TCS is for electronic commerce operator and for government recipients, etc. That TDS and TCS to differ from the TDS, TCS that you are talking in income tax. Different subject it is. Yes. So this is the total process of going about this registration process entire. This is part 1 divided into 2 parts, part A and part B. Under part A, you would be required to give PAN, legal name, email ID, mobile number, and basic particulars. OTP would be generated to that email ID, and mobile number. Then you can go to this email ID and mobile number wherein you would be OTP would be there. After giving OTP, you would be getting temporary reference number TRN. If you give TRN along with password, then part B would be opened. In part B, various information such as constitution, jurisdiction, option for composition, date of commencement of business, registration, address, details of bank accounts, everything would be done. Part B would be over. After giving all those things, you would be required to wait for departmental action. CTP also provisions are different. I will mention you. After you have submitted, it would go to the department, which is part 2. In part 2, the proper officer would be searching or would be going through the documents that you have submitted. They would be verifying. So if it is verified with Aadhaar, 7 days is the time limit. Otherwise, 30 days is the time limit. So within these 7 days or 30 days, no information, no registration came, nor any clarification letter came, then it is deemed to have granted the registration. Even though registration is not granted, it is deemed to have the registration is been granted. So in that way, within 7 days or 30 days, automatic, obvious, some notice or some replies or some rejections would come, no doubts. Then within that limit, if they issue some clarification, those things also has to be replied within 7-15 days. Then department would be checking within 7 days. They would be either accepting or rejecting your application. So all these things are with regarding to this registration procedure, registration process. Any doubt, you can feel free to ask. Any doubt? Shall I continue? Amendment of registration, I would tell you. Amendment. Amendment of registration, if you see. Two types of amendments are there. Core field amendment as well as non-core field amendment. So in case of this non-core field amendment meaning email ID, mobile number, or some small things that you want to change. Without going for departmental approval, you can change. That is termed as a non-core field amendment. But if there are certain fields that has to be changed, which requires departmental sort of confirmations, that just as if in case of registration, you would be required to give particulars and those things would be given with. That amendments are termed to be as non-core field amendment. For those core field amendments, you have to give amendment application and department have to approve. Then only that amendment would be in place. So that is what two types of amendment, core field as well as non-core field amendments. So in this way, the registration afterwards, if you want to add any place of business within the state, if you want to change the address, everything non-core field amendment you would be required to give. So as if in case of the normal registration procedure, here also you would be required to give those documents, documentary proofs, etc. And all those things would be verified by the department. And after verification, they would be either accepting your amendment or would be rejecting after giving some clarification. Then again, if it is been then that would be rejected. So this is that fundamental way wherein you would be giving away with those things.
I think
Session. So in this way, you can amendment all those particulars both in core field as well as non-core field. So these are all those things that would happen after registration if we want to amend. So now do tell me, two types of amendments are there. Everybody do type. What are those two types of amendments? Everybody kindly do type. Two types of amendments. Two types of amendments. Everybody do type. Which are they? Two types of amendments, core field and non-core field. No requirement for going into that website and to go for amendment application. Non-core field, directly it would be. You can amend them. So within this, yes, core field and non-core field. So within this total registration procedure and amendment this thing over. So today we were familiarizing those procedure with regarding to GSTIN. Afterwards, we went on to discuss that registration procedure online also. I shown you how to do this procedure as well as within this PowerPoint also, those theoretical, what are all the things to be done, how to do it and all those things I have mentioned. Till now, any doubt you can ask. Otherwise, I would ask you to give some answers. What is that form I was mentioning? REG 010203 I was mentioning. What was the form to application? REG and what were? And what were those forms? Part A, Part B, etc. Can you try to have a view about? And about this step-by-step procedure of registration. Various forms REG 01, REG 05 to be understood with. Then various types of registration: voluntarily effective date of registration, deemed registration, CTP, NRTP, not required to get registered, compulsory registration, various threshold limits under various states, person liable to get registered patients of registrations, GST number, all those things I have mentioned. So this way you try to get on with this fundamental part of registration. You try to go through that web portal gst.gov.in. And finally, in the next session, we are going to discuss about various GST returns, GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, etc. We are going to discuss. So kindly do have an overview about this GSTR 3B as well as GSTR 1, etc. Under that, definitely yes, those normal taxpayers, monthly they would be required to submit returns under GSTR 1 as outward supply particulars, and payment of tax that has to be done would be under a GSTR 3B, within which two more forms, GSTR 2A as well as GSTR 2B would be there. So GSTR 2A is a dynamic form. All those persons who are giving them supplies, inward supply, those persons would be required to give details, and those credits would be appearing in GSTR 2A. And within 15th or 16th of that month, all those GSTR 1 supplied by the suppliers would be reflecting in that 2A would be appearing in 2B, and they would be eligible to get credit from that 2B only. From that 2B, they can take the credit and they can submit the returns after making cash ledger payment, if any, under GSTR 3B. So this is normal person returns. Apart from normal person's returns, composition 3-month payment under CMP 08 and annual return submission GSTR 4 is required. Apart from that, various other types of returns are also there. So in short, all these types of returns we would be discussing day by day. In next 3 classes, we would be discussing all those returns along with payment of taxes, various ledgers, electronic liability register, electronic cash ledger, electronic payment ledger, liability ledger, credit ledger and cash ledger. 3 types of ledger we would be discussing. For that purpose, kindly do go through your intermediate book, wherein you would be seeing all these theoretical know-how. So by knowing that theory only, in practice, you would be appreciating what are all the things which are happening around. That's why actually I was focusing on theory portions also. So any doubt till now regarding this registration GSTRN, you may feel free to ask now. Otherwise, we would catch you later in the next session. Hope it is okay. Any doubts you can ask, otherwise you can tell okay, we can wind up today's session. Shall we? So you go through the website, you tell me how it feels for you. Any doubts you can feel free to ask now, or we would be catching up later. Thank you all for your patient listening. Would make you know about all these GST returns, everything, and you to go through that intermediate your material. Would catch up later. Thank you.